So this is Wanda Holloway, and Wanda will do anything to be a cheerleader, maybe even unalive someone. Now, Wanda was just a kid growing up in the 1960s, living in the quiet community of Channelview, Texas, a small blue-collar town just east of Houston. But unfortunately, her dad was super religious, a strict Southern Baptist who believed cheerleader skirts were way too short for a teenager to wear. He didn't want his daughter dressing like what he called a hoochie, and so he put his foot down. Nah, can't be a cheerleader, he told young Wanda. Just like that, the end of her cheerleading dream. This devastated poor Wanda. I mean, this was all she'd ever wanted. How could he do this to her? In Channelview, Texas, cheerleading wasn't just some after-school activity. It was a ticket to social status, popularity, and recognition. The cheerleaders were the queens of the school, and everyone knew their names. Wanda would watch them in their pristine uniforms, commanding attention at pep rallies and football games, and she'd feel that painful sting of exclusion. Every Friday night during football season, Wanda would sit in the bleachers, watching those girls with their perfect hair and perfect routines, thinking, that should be me down there. The rejection became a wound that never fully healed, a constant reminder of what she couldn't have. Her father's decision haunted her for years. While other girls her age were developing diverse interests and planning their futures, Wanda remained fixated on that single denied opportunity. Her friends would later recall how she would randomly bring up cheerleading in conversations, even years after high school ended. I could have been better than any of them, she'd say. My dad just didn't understand how important it was. Then fast forward decades later to the 1980s. Wanda's in her mid-30s now, and she's still living in Channelview, Texas. But now she's married to a man named Tony Harper, and more importantly, she's got a daughter of her own, this girl named Shanna. Wanda, now going by Wanda Holloway after a previous marriage, was still carrying those hang-ups about her dad, not letting her be a cheerleader all those years ago. So she decides to finally do something about it. She's going to do everything in her power to make sure her daughter Shanna can be one. She starts pushing Shanna into it from an early age. When Shanna is barely walking, Wanda's already buying her little pom-poms and cheerleading outfits. By the time Shanna reaches elementary school, Wanda's investing serious money into her daughter's future cheerleading career. Modeling classes, private cheer lessons, tumbling classes, dance instruction, you name it. Wanda transformed their modest home into a shrine to cheerleading. The walls were decorated with inspirational posters of cheerleaders, and shelves displayed miniature cheerleader figurines. She bought Shanna a full-length mirror so she could practice her routines and perfect her form. At night, they would watch videos of college cheerleading competitions together, with Wanda pointing out techniques and formations. See how they execute that basket toss? That's what you need to learn, Wanda would tell her daughter. Later, she gets Shanna a spot at this insanely competitive gymnastics studio in the Houston area, spending hours driving back and forth for training sessions. As time goes on, Shanna ends up becoming pretty good at dance and cheer with all this intensive training she's been getting. The problem is, Wanda isn't just encouraging, she's obsessive. Former neighbors recall seeing Wanda drilling cheerleading routines with Shanna in their front yard for hours, sometimes until after dark. If Shanna made a mistake, Wanda would make her start over from the beginning. One neighbor remembers hearing Wanda shouting, "That's not good enough. You think that will get you on the squad?" Again. However, there's one other girl Shanna can't seem to outshine. This girl Amber Heath, daughter of Verna Heath. Shanna and Amber, they're actually friends. I mean, they go to school together at Alice Johnson Junior High. They run in the same popular girl circles. They'd have sleepovers at each other's houses, go to the mall together, and call each other on the phone to talk about boys and school drama. Just normal teenage girl stuff. But Amber is just better than Shanna at dance and cheer. She's naturally athletic, with an easy grace that no amount of training seems able to replicate. When both girls would perform the same routine, there was just something special about the way Amber executed it, a charisma and natural talent that couldn't be taught. This reality absolutely infuriated Wanda. In her mind, all the money she'd invested, all the hours of practice, all the sacrifices they'd made, it should have guaranteed Shanna's superiority. But talent doesn't always work that way. Regardless, Shanna's mom, Wanda, keeps her eyes on her ultimate goal. She wants to officially get Shanna onto the school's cheerleading squad, and she'll do anything to make that happen. People in Channelview would later remark that Wanda seemed more invested in Shanna becoming a cheerleader than Shanna herself was. While other mothers were encouraging their daughters to explore different interests or focus on academics, Wanda had tunnel vision. Cheerleading wasn't just an extracurricular activity for her daughter. It was an obsession, a way to rewrite her own past disappointments. So in 1989, Wanda puts a plan into motion. See, Shanna, she's now in the 7th grade. She's 13 years old, and she's old enough to try out for the cheer squad. Wanda transfers her out of her private school to Alice Johnson Junior High specifically so that she could try out for their cheerleading team. At that school, there are 2 open spots on the squad, and initially, only one other girl is trying out. So Shanna is practically guaranteed to make the team. I mean, this is great for them. But then guess who suddenly wants to try out for that team as well? Shanna's friend Amber. Here's the absolute dumbest part of this whole story. I guess at this school, or maybe in the school district, to make the cheer team, you don't audition based on skill. You actually get voted in by the students at the school. So you have to campaign and put up flyers and get the students to vote for you. This is absurd because it should be based on skill, but whatever. That's just how they do things in Channelview. The voting system was rooted in the school's tradition, where cheerleaders were seen not just as athletes, but as representatives of school spirit. The idea was that students should have a say in who would be leading them in cheers at games and pep rallies. But this popularity contest aspect only added another layer of stress and competition to an already intense situation. Both girls campaigned for a spot on the team. They put up posters in the school hallways, hand out candy with little notes attached saying vote for Shanna or vote for Amber. They give speeches at lunch about why they'd make the best cheerleaders. And kaboom, Shanna doesn't win. She doesn't get a spot. And her mom, Wanda, is absolutely devastated and pissed off. She complains to the other parents. She goes to the school board and complains to them. She threatens to get a lawyer. It's not fair. I'll sue you. Of course. Amber makes the team with no problem. I mean, she's genuinely popular, people like her, and honestly, she's more talented. As time goes on, Amber still outshines Shanna. She gets voted as most spirited in the class in the school yearbook. She becomes the class president while Shanna only gets voted vice president. It's like everything Wanda feared is coming true. Amber is becoming the golden girl of Alice Johnson Junior High, while Shanna remains in her shadow. Behind the scenes, Wanda's resentment toward Amber and her mother, Verna Heath, was growing toxic. Wanda would make snide comments about them at PTA meetings, suggesting that Amber must have unfair advantages or that the voting was rigged. Some parents started avoiding Wanda because conversations with her inevitably devolved into bitter complaints about the Heaths. That girl isn't half as talented as Shanna, Wanda would mutter to anyone who would listen. Her mother must be bribing someone. A whole year passes, and the girls are now in the 8th grade. They're both up to try out for cheer again, or campaign, because they campaign at this school. It's the stupidest thing ever. But this time, Wanda has a strategy. She is still determined to get her daughter on that team. During campaign time, they make custom rulers and pencils with Shanna's name on them, vote for Shanna, or whatever, and they hand them out to all the students. Wanda spends nearly $400 on these promotional items, which is a significant amount of money for their working-class family in 1991. Here's the problem, though. Handing out branded rulers and pencils actually goes against the school's election code. It's against the rules. I guess it's seen as like bribery, crossing the line from campaigning into buying votes. Shanna, she finds this out and immediately stops giving them to students. I mean, she doesn't want to get in trouble. But her mom, Wanda, doesn't stop. She's still showing up to the school every day, passing them out to students as they enter the building. And so then, boom, the school disqualifies Shanna from campaigning to be a cheerleader. She is no longer eligible to be on the team. And of course, this absolutely destroys Wanda. She's like, no, this can't be. And she's complaining to other parents again and fighting with the school board again. Not to mention, it pisses her off even more that Amber does make the squad. Witnesses later reported that Wanda had a complete meltdown in the school parking lot when she heard the news. She was seen screaming at the principal, pounding her fists on the hood of her car and threatening to make them all pay. One teacher described it as the most disturbing display of adult behavior she'd ever witnessed at the school. Now, you would think Shanna would be devastated by all this too, but no, not really. Because at this point, it's 1991, and Shanna is 13 years old now. She's a full-fledged teenager, and she starts thinking for herself. And she's like, you know what? Screw cheerleading. She doesn't even want to do it anymore. I mean, it was always her mom pushing her into it anyway. Shanna had begun developing other interests. She joined the school choir and discovered she had a pretty good singing voice. She made new friends who weren't in the popular cheerleader crowd, and she found she enjoyed hanging out with them more. When she tried to tell her mother about these new interests, Wanda would cut her off. "We're not giving up on cheerleading," Wanda would insist. "Next year will be different." Shanna's friends later told investigators that she had confided in them about her mother's obsession. "My mom needs to chill," she reportedly told a close friend. "It's just cheerleading. It's not like it's going to determine my whole future or something." But Wanda couldn't let it go. Cheerleading wasn't just an activity to her. It represented everything she'd been denied, everything she felt she deserved. And now, her daughter's indifference felt like another betrayal. Now her mom, Wanda, has a different plan. She's still determined to get her daughter on the next year's team. And this is where it gets really crazy, because it's here that Wanda comes up with a plan to make sure that her daughter gets on that team. She's going to hire a hitman. She wants to hire a hitman to either take out Amber or take out Amber's mom, Verna Heath. Because she thinks if Amber's mom is unalive, then Amber will be too devastated to try out for the cheer squad, and that open slot will then go to Shanna. It's a terrible plan all the way around. Here's the bigger problem, though. Wanda doesn't know any hitmen, but she actually does know a guy who kind of has a criminal record, this guy Terry Harper. And Terry is actually Wanda's ex-brother-in-law from her previous marriage. In January 1991, Wanda hits up Terry and they meet up at a local truck stop diner. Over coffee, she asks him for this crazy favor. "I need someone taken care of," she tells him. "Can you help me find someone who could, take care of a problem permanently?" Terry, understandably confused, asks her what she's talking about. "I want someone to kill Verna Heath," Wanda says bluntly. "Her daughter keeps beating Shanna out for cheerleading, and I'm sick of it. If her mother was gone, Amber would be too upset to try out, and Shanna would finally get her chance." And Terry hears all this, and he's like, "No, because, that's murder." He doesn't want to be involved in all that. But Wanda doesn't let it go. She brings it up again to him a few weeks later. And poor Terry, he doesn't know what to do. I mean, he really needs the money. He's struggling financially, working odd jobs, and barely making ends meet. But he doesn't want to murder anyone. Plus, he doesn't want to go to jail again. He's been clean for years. So now he's in a predicament, because if Wanda hires someone else to unalive her cheerleading rival's mom, and Terry knew she was looking for a hitman, now he's an accessory to a crime. He knows way too much. So Terry, low-key, ends up going straight to the police in Channelview, and he tells them everything. That his ex-sister-in-law is trying to hire a hitman to unalive her daughter's cheerleading rival's mother. The police are stunned. This isn't the kind of crime they typically deal with in their small community. But they take Terry's claims seriously and decide to set up a sting operation. They make Terry wear a wire and meet up with Wanda again to get hard evidence. So Terry has Wanda meet up with him again, this time in room 122 of the Channelview Travel Lodge Motel. Now Terry's all pretending like, yeah, I can find you a hitman to unalive these people. Sure, no problem. And he says it'll be $2,500 to unalive Amber's mom, Verna Heath, but it'll be $5,000 to unalive Amber because she's a minor. I guess it costs more to unalive a minor. During this meeting, which is being recorded by police, Wanda is chillingly calm. She discusses the murder of a woman and potentially a child as if she's ordering takeout. "I don't care how it's done," she tells Terry. "Just make it look like an accident. Maybe a car accident or something." So Wanda, I guess she's cheap, she opts to just put a hit out on Amber's mom because it's less expensive. And she hands Terry a pair of diamond earrings as a down payment, promising the rest of the money after the job is done. "Just make sure it happens before cheerleader tryouts in March," she insists. "I want this taken care of." The police, who are listening into all of this because Terry's wired, now have all the proof they need. The next day, on January 30th, 1991, police show up to Wanda's house in Channelview, and bam, they arrest her. Here's her mugshot, showing a woman with permed hair and a stunned expression, as if she can't believe she's actually facing consequences for her actions. News of the arrest spread through Channelview like wildfire. Local and national media descend on the small Texas town. Cheerleader mom becomes headline news across America, with people fascinated by the bizarre case of a mother willing to commit murder over something as seemingly trivial as a cheerleading spot. Wanda goes to trial. She actually has 2 trials. The first one ends in a mistrial because of technicality. In the second trial, jurors hear the actual audio recordings from Terry's wire, where Wanda can clearly be heard discussing the murder plot. Her defense team tries to argue that Terry manipulated her and that she wasn't serious about the murder plot. But the evidence is overwhelming, and the jury isn't buying it. She's ultimately found guilty of solicitation of capital murder, a first-degree felony, and sentenced to 15 years in prison. But she only serves 6 months at the Mountain View unit in Gatesville, Texas, before she's let out on probation for some reason. So people get off really easy in these situations. The case gained national attention, becoming one of the most notorious examples of parents taking youth sports way too far. It inspired a TV movie called Willing to Kill, the Texas cheerleader story starring Holly Hunter as Wanda, and books like Positively for Life by the intended victim, Verna Heath. As for the main players in this bizarre saga, Shanna, understandably mortified by her mother's actions, eventually changed her name to try to escape the notoriety. She never did become a cheerleader, instead focusing on building a quiet, normal life away from the spotlight. Amber Heath, the unwitting rival in this twisted plot, went on to graduate high school and attended college in another state, far from the cheerleading drama of her youth. Verna Heath, who came terrifyingly close to being murdered over a junior high cheerleading competition, became an advocate against bullying and toxic competition in youth sports. Terry Harper, the reluctant informant whose conscience potentially saved lives, received a reward from Crime Stoppers and used the money to start a small business. The community of Channelview was forever changed by the incident. The school district revised its cheerleading selection process, implementing a skill-based audition system rather than the popularity contest that had contributed to the toxic competition. The cheerleader mom case remains a cautionary tale about the dangers of parents living vicariously through their children, of unfulfilled dreams festering into obsession, and the extreme lengths some people will go to achieve status and recognition. It's been over 3 decades since Wanda Holloway's arrest shocked the nation, but her story continues to resonate because it taps into something universally recognizable: the pressure to succeed, the pain of rejection, and the sometimes toxic nature of competition. What began as a father's simple no to his daughter's cheerleading dreams spiraled across generations into a murder plot. It's a stark reminder that unresolved disappointments can twist and distort over time, transforming ordinary people into those capable of extraordinary evil. In the end, no one got what they wanted. Wanda didn't get to be a cheerleader. Shanna didn't get to be a cheerleader. All they got was notoriety, shame, and a permanent place in the annals of true crime. Perhaps the most important lesson from this bizarre case is that children need to be allowed to find their own paths and pursue their own dreams, not serve as